Hello, I'm Hayden Bluefield and welcome to the channel. This week, my girlfriend and I went to Fearne Cotton's Bigger Than Us book launch in London at Cadogan Hall. Beautiful venue, extraordinary evening, and I just wanted to share some key highlights of what it was, what sort of went on, what we experienced, and how that impacted me, what the result was like, and share a lovely, wonderful story of a beautiful evening. So the experience is a very laid back, chilled atmosphere, in the sense of, well, despite being quite a formal setting in terms of all in this auditorium, hundreds of us sitting around, and then on stage, Fearne presenting, talking about the book, and then obviously having a couple of guests on. So the evening was Fearne presenting, came on stage, gave us a bit of a journey about the book. I loved the open honesty, and same with like the people that were going on stage and Fearne speaking herself, just openly being like, I'm shitting myself, I'm now stood in front of 200, however many people going, why the hell did I decide to do this? This is ridiculous. But still, it works really well and it was wonderful. So Fearne went into the journey of the book, how it came about, relating to some of the people in the audience, like her friends, her family and such, and went on to then bring on her first guest, who was Jambo. From Jambo, we received a wonderful guided meditation. And I've been meditating for months now and always just done it on my own. The only thing I've done that's not solo is like with Morgan, or I have done like an online Zoom workshop, meditation workshop, where there's like 10 of us just on Zoom, but you're still in a room, solitary, away from anyone, but it's just, there's this screen literally that you're just there ignoring. And yet this experience was my first time as a group with hundreds of people sat there, all in complete silence, in blissful meditation amongst one another. That's quite an extraordinary experience. I've never experienced anything like that. And it brings this really positive energy within the atmosphere, and you just feel so connected to each other and that you're all in this together. It's quite a magical experience. It is bizarre. It's wonderful though. I'd recommend if you've got the opportunity, and I'd love to be able to experience it again. I'm sure I will. One thing I found with hearing Jambo speak, so like Fearne's up there presenting, very open, very honest about like, oh, this is terrifying, and gradually you could see like she got a lot more comfortable, and it was really pleasant to have that honesty coming from someone standing up on stage. And hearing Jambo speak, one thing that just like blew me away is how eloquent he speaks. There was not one single hesitation in his voice. Everything was, he received information, he paused, he pondered on it, and then gave his response, worded perfectly. How many times he's spoken on stage, I don't know, but that was just mind-blowing. And just someone that's so jolly and just happy and mindful. And when he actually finished his performance, there was an interval when he was walking up, and I managed to have a bit of a conversation with him, which was wonderful. So that was really cool. I actually wrote Fearne a letter. As said, my 22 goal is to become more connected and build a network of people that I find extraordinary, that motivate me, inspire me. So reach for the skies, why not? I spoke to Jambo about it and asked him to pass the letter on, and then he sort of managed it and passed it to Fearne's team and such. Wonderful interaction, wonderful human being, so that was a really pleasant experience. I'm glad I got to experience it. Following the interval, then Fearne's back on stage again, and we experienced the next guest, Donna Lancaster, a sort of, I don't know what you call it, like thought prayer leader kind of thing. So she gave us a guided prayer, which is really interesting because like the last time I prayed, I don't even know if I ever have. I've only ever just been forced to pray. And I'm talking like when I was probably 4 at church. And he's just like, no. But I've never considered myself religious. I don't know what I would label myself as, probably agnostic. But this wasn't a religious prayer, it was the concept of non-religious prayer, which I find really interesting. And it's, well, she talked about like the definition of prayer and the format of it in terms of asking this question to a higher, or to another being or some sort of presence that feels larger than us. But that presence doesn't have to be omnipotent, doesn't have to be like God or gods. It can be the omnipresence of life itself. You can pray to life, you can pray to the globe, the earth as a whole, of Mother Nature, however you want to do it. And I do like the idea of this concept of praying to life. It's kind of this boundary between meditation and prayer, of just communicating and vocalizing. Like meditation is the concept of like emptying our mind of thought, and prayer is the concept of bringing these wonderful thoughts in and then sharing them with life. And in this prayer, so she sort of guided us through it and gave us instructions what to do. And it was a case of taking a thought, something that in particular you want to, a problem within humanity that you feel strongly about. And when presented with that question, I jumped to homelessness and hunger. I just have this thought in my mind that's like, how can we have achieved so much as a species and be so forward and advanced, especially like technologically, and yet there are people that live without shelter that are hungry on a day-to-day basis. And I think there's a fundamental flaw here. There's something we've like cocked up. The concept of fixing that is a great challenge for the whole of humanity. And there are many people working on it. And it's not just a case of being able to exchange money, like, right, I've now bought food for everyone. It is this real complex economical issue. But regardless, I still feel like, how can we have advanced so well, and just like, while humanity's advanced and become some sort of superiority on this globe, yet within humanity there's different levels where people are up here, people are down here. We need to balance that and be able to bring the lower people. Like, I don't see problems with people living on top, but it's just bringing people lower down up to the point where there are people that are not living hungry, there are people that are not living homelessly. There are two things. I don't know how to format that into a question of one issue. So I go with climate change, and I sort of pondered on eradicating humanity's destructive nature towards, or destructive component towards the globe. And I thought that feels a bit negative to me. I want to contrast that into a positive. So to turn that into a positive, I consider it to be the augmentation of humanity's benevolence towards the earth. There is a huge, vast number of us that are living environmentally friendly, that are conscious of the environment, that are doing what we can, companies, individuals, groups of people that are trying, charities that are moving towards improving the earth and helping humanity to live with nature and not against it, where we can be sustainable. So that became the focus of my prayer, and it was a concept of close your eyes, you're in prayer, you have your two hands out, and you have this problem that you're focused on, and then in your other hand you have what would be the solution to it, and something that solves it. And then talks about bringing them up in your hands, bring them together. And that just, when you really allow yourself to think on this and be able to really experience it and come together and pray. And then she talks about releasing your prayer out into the open and let that go out into life. I thought that was quite a wonderful ending, to see a hall of hundreds of people and we just let our wish out, our prayer out into life to hopefully one day come true. She talks about the reality of praying as well, and it's not a case of wishing for a Lambo, praying for a Lambo, and then the Lambo pulls up on her driveway. And she talks of her mother passing away as well, and like with her prayer, it wasn't a case of like, please stop my mum from dying. It was a case of, please allow me to be strong for her, allow me to still smile in her presence and enjoy the moments we have left. It's about being able to ask for the right things and not just pray on these sort of unattainable goals that can't be achieved. It's like, no matter how much we want it, we can't. If our loved ones are ill and terminal, we cannot unfortunately keep them with us. But you can pray on a mindset that will allow you to enjoy those moments. And I'm sure in our last days, we want to be able to have fulfillment, we want to be able to have enjoyment. And in a way, just like forget what's happening and just be able to enjoy the time we spend with each other and make sure that those last memories are fond ones. It makes me think though, like the concept, because Donna spoke about studies have been done in areas that people engage in group prayer and find that it has dramatic results and a dramatic impact on the sense of community in terms of crime rates dropping, people coming together as a community, whereas when that is taken away, suddenly crime rates increase, people aren't such a community. And I fully believe that and can see why. And it just makes me think, like, when I think of the experience of church community, it's a rare, not many of us, I don't know the numbers, but I don't know anyone that really goes to church on Sunday, but the very concept of having this social aspect to your life, the fundamental benefit I see from that is the ability to have that social interaction on a weekly basis so regularly. It will do so well for your just development as a person, your own mental health, emotional health, and just your ability to build and maintain relationships and retain great friendships. Just because you are dedicating that time to each other once a week, how many of us have friendships that just fade away because as we get older, we become grown-ups, we're boring, we're busy, we've got work, we've got food shopping, we just haven't got the time to interact with one another and have that leisurely time so much. And even when we do, it becomes something that's like, oh, well, let's have a bit of a lazy day because we're so overworked, or let's do something with the kids. It's important to hold on to those times and those interactions with friends, even just to be able to do it together. If you are having a lazy day, like, do it with friends. If you are having time with the kids, like, do it with your friends and their kids and such, or your family. But I think church, Especially like when you see like gospel churches where they're like proper getting into it and singing with one another. I think like community singing would be an incredible way to just have this like burst of elation across a room and just fill everyone with adrenaline and hope and joy. I love the idea of this concept of a non-religious church. I don't know if one exists. I should have researched that before I made this video, but if one exists, let me know in the comments below. Back to the topic of the evening. After this wonderful prayer from Donna, the evening finishes with Fearne Cotton doing a Q&A with the audience, which I've never experienced such. Every question was like so well articulated. I just think, are these people, is this all rehearsed? But it seemed very natural, and it was such wonderful questions and spoken so eloquently and such impactful questions as well. They really did have like a deeper meaning to them. And Fearne very openly, very honestly just answered them. One question in particular that did make me laugh was in terms of, on this journey of spirituality and mindfulness, how do you get your children involved? Like in terms of meditating with them and doing yoga and being able to practice in their presence. And Fearne said simply, I don't. It doesn't work at all. But that's what young kids are. The young children don't want to sit there and meditate for 10 minutes. They want to run around and climb on your back and such. I always mention the podcast. There was a podcast I listened to with Russell Brand. He was on Joe Wicks's podcast or vice versa. Yeah, Russell Brand was on Joe Wicks's podcast. And he spoke about this very thing of he woke up and meditating, always wakes up with meditation in the morning and tries to get his children to involve, and they just haven't got the ability to sit down and be silent for that amount of time. But it's very different mindsets. They're growing, they're learning, they need to absorb everything they can. One question in particular that was really phenomenal, a chap named Sony, he asked a question to Fearne and finished with mentioning that he's a rapper and MC and saying he's created a piece that was inspired by Fearne herself, and could he come backstage afterwards and just demonstrate or perform it for her. And Fearne's response, which I don't think you could get a better response, was like, dude, just come up on stage now and perform it in front of everyone. So he jumped up on stage, and I would call it like poetry, but it was really beautiful in terms of it. Just within the space of a couple of minutes, I felt like I really knew this person and learned so much in terms of their journey, discovering they were autistic, being diagnosed, and even with their own journey and battle with mental health, or their struggle with mental health, being sections, spending that time alone, just with solitary thinking, and how they've now taken those bad experiences, which I mentioned in another video about like key to happiness, having a shit life, or having these traumatic or bad experiences can often lead to such positivity. Sometimes it can go one of either ways. There's the proverb, if you've heard it, of the alcoholic father that has two sons. One grows up to become a successful family man with wealth and whatnot. The other brother grows up to be an abusive alcoholic father as well. And when asked how they became the person they are today, they both said, I learned from my father. Obviously taking different lessons, and one walking away with the negative, one walking away with the positive. But from these bad experiences, we can have great experiences. And hearing that performance and finishing, and the crowd just cheered, and he got a standing ovation, which was really incredible and great to be part of. It was phenomenal to witness. So shout out to Sony for that great performance. Fearne did tease the idea of maybe future live events. She's not a big fan of, or mentioned she's not a big fan of that kind of presenting in front of so many people and prefers to just be tucked away. She's an introvert, likes to be tucked away and have space to herself. However, did mention the idea of future live events, and I love the concept of potentially having like Happy Place live events in the future. That would be amazing. But overall, for the evening, it was incredible, it was wonderful, and I really hope I do get to experience more. It was just phenomenal to be on something that was like a live podcast. It was a live book launch, but incorporated activities of mindfulness with the group meditation, group prayer, and I hope to experience many things like that in the future. But the purpose of this video was just to share with you this wonderful story, this wonderful evening I had. Hopefully it inspired you to go and experience. Like, one thing that Morgan, my girlfriend, and I have discussed this year is just trying to have so many more experiences, especially now that things are starting to open up a bit, and maybe we won't have another lockdown, touch wood. But if we do escape that, we can start thinking about going away, going abroad, maybe. Oof. But just having so many more experiences, like, well, I'm recording this, I've got a yoga class tonight that I've never been on a yoga class, so that's exciting. Hopefully it's been valuable for you. If it has, make sure to like the video, drop a comment, let me know, or not. And if you have enjoyed it and want to see more videos, make sure to hit subscribe and hit the notification button. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.